Thank you so much. Good morning. My name is Kelli Brien. I am the founder of Mahogany Maternity. And to tell you a little bit about myself, I'm a passionate maternal health advocate focused on eliminating health disparities and the disproportionate African American, Latina, infant, and maternal mortality rates. What that means is my mission and my goal, my passion and my fuel is to save the lives of moms who look like me and babies who look like mine that are at risk, that are in danger, and they are closer than you think. Somebody that you know has gone through a traumatic birth, someone you know has suffered a loss, someone you know needs you to pay attention to what I have to say today. Mahogany Maternity is an education and advocacy initiative to eliminate disparities and disproportionately high infant and maternal mortality rates among women of color. Our babies, Black and brown babies, die 3 times more than their white counterparts. And the data, the research proves that the core of that is systemic racism because of the treatment that we are receiving in the hospitals. So a little bit about me. I'm the owner of Mahogany Maternity, a birth and postpartum doula. Does everybody know what a doula is? For those who may not, a doula is someone who is accompanying a family, mother, father, who are going through the maternal year. So when you find out you're pregnant, we're with you the whole entire way. We meet with you, we talk about what your desires are, what your needs are, how you're feeling about the pregnancy, and what it is that it's going to take for you to have the most successful birth that you envision in your mind, whatever that means for you. We're there with you the entire way. So we meet all throughout your pregnancy, and then when it's time for you to go in, we're that 2 a.m. call. We're on the other end of that 2 a.m. call, that 3 a.m. call that says, I think this might be it. We meet with you at the hospital or at the birth center or at your home, and we walk through the entire labor with you and stay with you afterwards, making sure that breastfeeding is established, making sure that you're comfortable. We're wiping that brow, we're holding your hand, we're feeding you, we're explaining to you what the doctors are saying, what it means. We're walking through the entire process to make sure that you're as comfortable, that you're as educated, and that you're informed as possible. I'm really excited about this. I'm a certified lactation specialist. I'm a Lamar certified childbirth educator, spinning baby certified parent educator, perinatal educator, and I'm certified through Dona International. I'm a mom of 3, and my experiences with their labors and birth brought me here. So I was 18. I was very educated. I read 6 books on pregnancy. I had gone to every single doctor's appointment. I had read every pamphlet. I had done the whole thing. I'd gone to 2 Lamar's classes, because I was going to be ready. And unfortunately, my labor didn't go the way that I had read in those books. I was treated very poorly. My son was born indigo blue. I didn't know why he was born indigo blue, and I didn't know why after he was born nobody shouted and screamed and congratulated me and hugged me and all of that. I just knew that he was gone. They whisked him away, and I didn't see him for 6 hours, and nobody would tell me why. To this day, I have no idea exactly why they took him away and what was wrong with him. All my questions were ignored. He's 24 now, and I thank God that he made it, but I am one of the millions upon millions that are near misses that don't get talked about. We talk about those who passed away, but we don't talk about those who almost passed away. My son spent a week in the NICU, and I never heard any answers as to what happened. Looking back as a doula now, I can understand what the processes were and what happened and what was going on in my body, because I can think back to what was done to me, not for me. But I can't tell you exactly why those doctors didn't talk to me. And I can't tell you exactly why the nurses didn't talk to me. I can't tell you exactly why, when I was wheeled away, they said, I'm so glad she's leaving now. I can't tell you why that happened, but I can tell you that my mission is to make sure it doesn't happen to any other mother. I'll go back for a second. That was my first birth. He made it through, thank God. He's 24 now. My second birth, I was married with my husband, and we were excited, and I read more, we talked more, and I've got my advocate with me, and it's gonna be better, and it was. I was more assertive with my care. I asked more questions. I was more present to say that, no, these are decisions I'm going to make. These are decisions we're going to make, and I'm not moving until you give me my answers. And so that helped to have a better birth experience, but I still felt like something was missing. I still felt like I was kind of in the back seat versus being on a team. With my third, I was at church and I was big and pregnant. My friend walked up to me and she said, "Can I be your doula?" And I'm like, "That sounds great if you tell me what that is. I'd love for you to be my doula if you explain to me what that means." And she did. She explained what a doula does. And so she came on and she met with me every month. We talked, we ate donuts, we laughed, and she educated me even more about things I didn't know about the physicality of my body, what the words the doctors meant, and what it meant for me to be the lead in the team of my birth and what that really looked like. So when she came to the hospital, she calmed us down and she walked us through everything. We're having a great time. We're actually playing cards and we're listening to music and we're rocking and we're walking. And I'm thinking, this is like being at home. She changed the atmosphere for me. And when that atmosphere changed, and when my mindset changed, and when my perspective on my birth changed, everything changed. Just about 5 minutes before my third child was born, I said, let's talk about turning up my pain meds. And they said, "Ma'am, you are not on any medicine." I'm like, "Well, I feel good. Let's talk about medicine. Let's talk about it. Let's talk about that." And they said, "Okay, well, you make it to the bed." And by the time I made it to the bed, it was time for her to be born. I went through the whole entire birth, not knowing that they hadn't put anything into my IV, and I was so comfortable. She was born totally natural, and it was such a different experience for me to not even know that I could do this without pain medication, to know that my mentality, that the atmosphere, that the people who were in the room with me made that big of a difference, that the pain was not number one. So that changed my experience. She changed my experience. She changed my life. And so when my daughter was 6 months old, she called me and she said, "I think that this is something you want to do." And I said, "I think you're right." And I've been doing it ever since. So, Mahogany Maternity is a birth justice and maternal resource organization. What that means is when I have clients who come to me to get doula work, I am a sleuth. I'm a sleuth. I find out what it is you really want. Do you really want someone in there with you, or do you want to be educated on what the doctors are saying? Do you want somebody to hold your hand? Do you need a mother figure? Do you need a friend? Do you need an educator? What is it that you are looking for from me? I can become that, but I need to know what it is you desire. Because when I can get to your desire, we can have a healthy birth. We can have a healthy birth experience, no matter what the outcome is. If your perspective is positive and your surrounding and atmosphere is positive, it can be healthy. I provide education, resources, advocacy, and policy information. So one of the things that I'm extremely passionate about is legislation. I talk a lot to people who are helping to make laws, people who are helping to get bills written. I worked very, very closely on the Senate Bill 416, which was to get doulas compensated by Medicaid. It did pass, and I was really grateful for that. Thank you. Unfortunately, because we are where we are and things are the way they are currently, the bill was not funded. So the fight continues. The fight continues. However, I identified many community partners and people who are interested in changing what's going on with legislation, with administrations, and what's going on hospital to hospital, room to room. Here we go. Testified in Indiana State House and Senate for SB 416. Okay, this is basically what I just said. So testimonials. For me, the testimonials are great, but what does the most for my heart is when I get a call that says, "He's graduating." I still keep in touch with my very first doula client. I get a lot of emails and phone calls and postcards of my little ones who are now, some of them actually having little ones. It's just so many things going on, you know. And it's really interesting to find out how much you touch a life when you're in in someone's birth. And this is something that I educate even my co-birth workers on. Recently, we had a conference, we hosted a conference, and we educated nurses and doctors and legislators on what it's like to be a mother going through the hospital. What it's like to be a Black woman, to be a brown woman, and experience what's happening and why we're dying, why we're dropping like flies when we have every opportunity to save the lives that are passing through our hands. And so for me, the testimonials come when not only did we just make it, but we're healthy and we're happy, and it was a beautiful birth experience. So the testimonials for me are someone giving me a call and saying, she's ready, come on in, let's go. And it's also that testimony of saying, my very first doula baby walked across the stage and graduated and all these great things. So, vision for the near future, birth equity, awareness, and support. And that looks like educating the community about what's happening. What it looks like to have equity in the hospital. What it looks like to have equity, not just during the labor experience, but when you're walking into the doctor's office. I've had many calls from organizations saying, oh, you have a client and she's not showing up to this appointment. And we're gonna exit her from the office, or we're not going to see her anymore, or we're gonna call CPS. And I call the client, and the client says to me, well, they told me I couldn't come in until I got my Medicaid card. So there's this gap in communication. There's this chasm between the community, families, and providers, where the information is falling to the wayside, and so that's how we're losing patients, clients, families. And that's how there's this huge gap where the communication is not there. So I provide seminars. One of the seminars that I do is the Birthing Bill of Rights. It educates clients on what their actual legal rights are and how to recognize when something is wrong, when their rights are being encroached upon. It also teaches providers how to walk that out. What does it look like for your practice to be equitable? What does it look like for your administration and your policies to be equitable, truly equitable? What does that mean? How does my policy affect what's happening when you're having contractions? How does my policy affect what it's like when you're breastfeeding or when you choose not to breastfeed? So I educate providers on that, I educate families about that, and I educate legislators about what it means to change the words on paper that change people's lives. So, training doulas and birth workers is a passion of mine as well. I've had so far 2 cohorts of doulas that I have trained through my organization. And I'm extremely proud of them. A lot of them have started networks and have, started collaboratives and working very hard from everywhere from Indianapolis to Chicago and Michigan and Wisconsin and a couple of other states as well. But the purpose of that is to make sure that the education goes far beyond me and to not only duplicate myself, but to pass on the message that everything that we do counts. Everything you bring into the atmosphere counts. Your words count, your body language counts, everything that you're bringing into the room touches that child. So on the horizon, one of my biggest goals, and this has been my driving force for everything that I'm doing, is a freestanding birth center, offering doula care, prenatal counseling and education, classes, birthing assistance, and post-birth baby care and support to the community. What this means for the community is that we have choice. And that's one of the biggest things that we're missing in maternal health, is the choice to say, this doctor treated me poorly, I was treated poorly at this hospital, or I was treated great here and I want everybody else to come here. But having a choice to say, I desire this, and this is what I'm choosing for myself, is extremely important, especially for the most important thing you'll ever do in your family. Funding the mission to provide support services and classes to mamas who cannot otherwise pay. So for about 13 years, I saw clients pro bono. I took no pay for clients for about 13 years. And then I decided, well, you know what, it's probably good if I get paid for my work. So even though I'm a nonprofit, I have changed my mindset because now there's more of a mission behind it than ever. Because I want to make sure that this work continues. I want to make sure that this work expands, and I not only want to plant a birth center here locally, but I want these birth centers to go nationwide. And the reason that's important is because that spreads choice. We have rural areas where people don't even have access to OBGYNs in Indiana. There are people who can't even go to a hospital and have a birth. They have to go to another city, travel for hours just to have a baby. So it's extremely important that we fill in these gaps because people are having babies in cars. People are having babies in hospitals that cannot support what they need. And with that, I will open it for questions.
Great.